right, you guys, it's episode 42 of War Stories. And without further ado, I'm going to get straight to it. So check it out, you guys. I'm going to take you guys back to 1999. We're going to go back to Ukiah again. Now, I'm not going to talk about a lot of the stuff that you guys have already heard about. You guys know how I got shipped out there. I was paroled out there, and how basically everything happened while I was out there trying to establish a regiment. I worked with Mexican Mike for a minute, and, I had to basically try to establish a regiment out there, unlike the traditional way that I was used to having Norteños to work with. Ukiah, I had to use American Indians and white cats out there. Anyway, so that's not what I want to talk about, though. What I do want to talk about is this is kind of like a spinoff of the case that I told you guys that I caught. So in 1999, I told you guys about the case that I caught. I was with one of my runners, a cat that I was working with. It was a fluke on a fluke. We jumped in his truck. I needed to drop off some dope like a half mile down from where I was living at that time, right off of Gobi and State Street. We jump in his truck. Unbeknownst to me at the time, this fool does not have tags on his truck, which I would have never jumped in the truck had I known that. I just assumed that he was legit, because that's usually how this individual rolled. He was legit. He worked, had a job. He wasn't no street kind of cat that was out there always getting loaded and shit like that. Dude had his shit together. Anyway, come to find out he didn't have tags. We end up getting lit up. Ukiah PD pulls us over right there off of Gobi in front of a Safeway. Now, you guys have already heard all that before. So I try to give the guy the dope so that he can secure it. He panics, throws it in the center console, and we get busted. You guys heard that story before. Okay, so I'm giving you the backdrop of this story because I want you to understand how it kind of relates to what I'm going to tell you. So, we get to jail. This guy ends up stepping up and saying that he'll ride the case because I was a 3-striker. I was looking at life, and because he was gonna step up and be a stand-up kind of individual, I bailed him out, got him an attorney, and tried to make the ride as comfortable as he could, and to try to help him get the best deal he could. So anyway, he started to do the Michael Jackson moonwalk on me. He started to backslide at one point, and then he flipped the script. So luckily, later on, I'd end up beating the case on a 995. So all that's understood. But here's the thing. So the cop that arrested me on this case in 1999, his name was Marcus Young. And he's a big dude. This dude's about 6'3". I want to say at one time, he weighed close to 300 pounds. He was like a frumpy, dumpy type of, just a big kind of sloppy dude. And Marcus Young, if you're watching this, no disrespect, it is what it is, boy. You should have hit that gym. But anyway, he's the one that put a case on me in 1999. He was the primary officer that pulled us over, and it was his case. So I told you guys about how when I caught the case, the district attorney was working in cahoots with the parole office. And this officer right here, this dude was trying to stick it to me. They wanted to be the ones to make sure that I got a life case out there in Mendocino County. They did not want me out there. And they wanted to make sure that I never hit the streets again. I got lucky, beat it on a 995, and that's how that worked out. But so this officer, Marcus Young, when I hit the county jail, just talking to other cats that were in the jail, some of the white dudes, some of the American Indians, they had heard about him. When I told them, yeah, this cat Marcus Young, he's the one that they're like, oh yeah, that dude's a punk, and he's got a history of fucking with people, and he's always out there, trying to make a name for himself. And the dude's he's an asshole. That's the way that they were painting this guy, right? I didn't really know him. I knew him for that one time when we got arrested. And I'm gonna say this, man, he's not cool, because if he was cool, he would have cut me loose right there the same day that we got arrested. When this other guy that I got caught up with, when He stepped up and took the case. When they searched his house and they searched my house, they didn't find no contraband, nothing in my house. When they dropped a bottle on both of us, he was dirty, I was clean. They should have let me go. There's no reason why they should have still pushed that case on me, but he did. Anyway, so after that case, this was in 99, I would end up getting shot back up to Pelican Bay, and then basically Ukiah was done with me. They didn't want me back out there on the streets. Things had got funky when I caught the case. You know, they were working against me. My dealings with parole, that whole relationship was shot the fuck out because they were just playing dirty. So, you know, I no longer had any type of respect for my parole officer or the supervisor. Maybe they just figured, you know what, we're not going to bring him back. It's all bad. So let's just transfer him out. So that's what they did. Now, I want to say, after I went out to Monterey County and I caught a parole violation out there and I got shot back up to the Bay again. So I remember I was in the cell watching TV. I used to fuck with America's Most Wanted. They used to be my show, man. So yeah, I used to fuck with John Walsh, man. Anyway, so I'm watching America's Most Wanted. It's a trip, man. I tripped out. I'm watching America's Most Wanted, and fucking Ukiah is on the map. Ukiah, I told you guys the other day in that other war story, Ukiah is not the place that has a lot of criminal activity. It has criminal activity, but not, you're not going to see a lot of murders that happen out there. You're not going to see a lot of organized crime. You're not going to see a lot of big gang crimes out there. It's just middle of the line, below par type of crimes that you're going to see out there. But when I'm watching America's Most Wanted, fucking Ukiah comes on a segment that they were running. And as I start to watch this episode, I trip out, man. Fucking Marcus Young is the primary person that they're talking about. I guess something had happened and they were running his story. So it gets better than that. So when I was in the Ukiah County Jail, I ended up meeting three white guys that there were some cool cats. I don't even know that they were affiliated with anything. They were just some woods from up there in Mendocino County. If they were affiliated with anything, it would be probably the skinheads. So there's three brothers. You got Neil Beckman, Kevin Beckman, and Robert Beckman. And like I said, all three of them were cool. There were some cool, decent cats. I used to play pinochle with them. And, you know, I respected all three of them. There were some decent, out of the cats that were up there, you know, they were there were three cats that I used to fuck with. So anyway, as I'm watching this episode about Marcus Young, this is what I'm going to tell you what America's Most Wanted said, and then I'm going to tell you some of the details that I would get later. So apparently, Neil Beckman was at a Walmart out there on State Street. And well, it's actually off State Street, but this happened on March 7th, 2003. So Marcus Young gets dispatched to the Walmart because somebody apparently was shoplifting over there. Now, Neil Beckman and his lady were there that night. I guess he has his lady, he had her boosting, and that's how they used to get their dope. They go in there, she boosts, and then they sell the product, whatever. They go fence that shit somewhere. Whatever happened, she ended up getting busted. So one of the security guards called Ukiah PD and reported that somebody was shoplifting. So none other than yours truly, Marcus Young, gets dispatched out there. By this time, he's a sergeant. Sergeant Marcus Young. So he drives up to the Walmart and he goes inside where security has this guy's, where they had Neil's girl hemmed up. So Marcus Young cuffs her up, brings her out to the car, puts her in the car, and I guess he was sitting there doing a report or something. For whatever reason, they didn't leave. He sat there and they were doing a report. Meanwhile, Neil ends up going back into the Walmart and gets on the security guard. He pulls out a blade and he stuck him 5 times. for arresting his old lady. He got mad because this dude called the cops and had his old lady arrested. So he stabs him inside the Walmart. After he stabs the security guard, he walks out of Walmart and he sees the patrol car with this girl still in the back seat. So he starts walking towards the patrol car. Now, according to Marcus Young, he had on a big jacket and he had both his hands in his pockets. Marcus Young's writing a report. And there's also a cadet riding shotgun, 17-year-old high school kid out of Ukiah High that is there on a ride along. A lot of police agencies do that. They'll have teenage kids do ride-alongs with officers out in the field, and it's a recruiting practice. It gives these youngsters an opportunity to see what a day as a cop is like. And if they like it, then they'll pursue a career in law enforcement. If not, then they'll never return. So he's got a 17-year-old cadet sitting next to him as he's writing this report. He looks up and he sees Neil Beckman coming at him. Right away, he tells Neil, take your fucking hands out your pocket. So Neil complies. He pulls his hands out his pockets, but when he does, he's got a blade in one hand and he's got a 38 revolver in the other. As soon as he pulls it out, he turns on Marcus Young and he starts busting on him. Oh, boy shot 6 times and he hit him 5. So, you know, he was up in the hills doing his target practice because that's 90, that fool shooting 99%. Anyway, he hits Marcus Young in the cheek. He hits him in the arm. He hits him in the back. He hits him in the hand. And he hits him in the shoulder 5 times. He ends up hitting him in his shooting hand. So basically, he's fucked. He can't grab his service revolver. His fingers are fucking blown off. His hands mangled. And he's basically helpless. He falls out of the patrol car and he's sitting on the parking lot. And he can't do nothing because like I said, his shooting hand is fucked up. So meanwhile, Beckman is out of bullets. He shot his wad and he's got no more bullets. So what he does is now he goes to the passenger side of the patrol vehicle where the youngster was. The youngster, once Beckman started firing, the youngster jumped out, ran in the bushes and hid. So the door is still open. So Beckman goes to the open door. Now he's trying to take the shotgun. He's trying to pull the shotgun out of the front. He's trying to break it and shit, trying to pop the lock. Obviously, he was going to finish off Marcus Young. So the youngster, 17-year-old kid, he sees what's going on. Meanwhile, Beckman's old lady's in the back seat screaming like, stop, babe, they're going to kill you. What the fuck are you doing? She only had a shoplifting. Why homeboy felt like he had to take it to these extremes, I don't know. But he obviously didn't want his girl going to jail that night. And, he was willing to do whatever it took to make sure that didn't happen. So anyway, the youngster sees that he's trying to grab the shotgun. The youngster pops up, runs over to where Marcus Young's sitting, picks up this gun, and he hands it to him. He puts it in his left hand. Marcus Young takes the gun and he shoots 3-4 times at Beckman, and he misses him for the most part, but one of the bullets ends up hitting him in the forehead, but it's not a fatal shot. He hits him, the bullet goes over his scalp, it grazes him, and it keeps on going. After he shot like 4 times, he drops the gun. Like I said, this wasn't his normal shooting hand, so for whatever happened, the gun slipped out, he couldn't grip it. The gun had blood all over it too. That's the other thing. He tried to, at first, when he first fell out of the car, he tried to grab it, but his hand was mangled and he couldn't do shit with it. So he just dropped it. Anyway, Neil takes one to the forehead, but it doesn't stop him. He's still fucking trying to break this gun out. Oh boy was on a sick one. He's probably all amped up on that shit. And it was what it was, man. But he was ready. He was ready to go the distance that night, and he did. So, meanwhile, the youngster, runs over to the, well, he was still there with Marcus Young, but once Marcus Young drops the weapon, the youngster picks it up again and hands it to him again. This time, Marcus Young fires at him again, and he ends up hitting him in the groin. Hits him in the groin, severs a major artery, game over. Oh boy hit the deck, bled out, and that was it. Now, I was tripping out, man. I'm looking at America's Most Wanted, and here's the cop that arrested me, try to put a case on me. And then here's Neil Beckman, somebody that I knew from Ukiah that was on America's Most Wanted. It was just a trip. You know, other people said that, you know, Neil Beckman pushed up on Marcus Young because he had a habit of always fucking with him, fucking with his girl. You know, his brothers had even mentioned something about it. I talked to his brothers later on after all this happened, and it was just like, oh boy hated that cop because he was a punk. You know, he fucked with a lot of people. But whatever the case, I don't know. I wasn't there, you know, so I can't speak on it. But it was just a trip to see, you know, two individuals, both that I knew, the cop from arresting me and, you know, this other guy, Neil Beckman from the county jail, and then knowing his brothers. It was a trip. Anyway, needless to say, Neil Beckman died right there that night. Marcus Young, they hailed him as being you know, they gave him all kind of honors for taking all those bullets and somehow still finding a way to kill Beckman. And, you know, they credited him with more people not dying that night, and this guy somehow finding a way to muster the strength to pick up the gun despite the fact that his hand was mangled and shoot Beckman. At the same time, they hailed the youngster as a hero for, you know, coming out of the bushes where he was safe to aid and help this officer in a life and death situation. It's just a trip, man. I know this was a different type of war story. It's a different type of episode. However, you know, it's something that happened. It's something that happened, and you guys can actually, you can look it up. If you Google it, you'll see several things on it. You might even be able to find it on the episode of America's Most Wanted. The, you know, the cadet, his name was Julian Cavella. The cop's name was Marcus Young. And like I said, Neil Beckman was the individual that shot him. You're going to see these pictures as you watch this video. Neil Beckman had devil horns, bald, he had a bunch of tattoos. I believe out of the three brothers, he was probably the one that used to run with the skinheads. And he was probably the more influential one, the one that was always out there in the streets getting in the shit. And he done a little bit of time. Anyway, you guys need to check it out. I found what pictures I could find. So like I said, you'll see him. I'm going to have Sandman, you know, incorporate the pictures as I talk about it in this video. Again, this is a short one. It's a different type of war story. It wasn't nothing that involved me. I'm going to try to get you guys out a couple bangers. I got some good ones for you guys. I'm going to hit you with some Inner Demons. I also got something else coming out on that Goshen incident that I finished today. It'll be aired tomorrow. Anyway, with that being said, man, this your boy B. This episode 42. And with that said, I'm out.